So my name is Michelle Alvarez. I'm president of the SSWAA board. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to highlight some things in the strategic plan that we have been implementing over the last year and talk about, where these different committees are in the process. So today I have with me the nominations committee chairs. And I'm very excited. One of the strategic things that we did was to pair a practitioner with a university professor as the chairs, because we felt that both lenses were important, but we definitely wanted to highlight the practitioner lens in this because we want more practitioners in leadership. So tell us a little bit, introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about the committee and what you've been doing.
Okay, so I am Kembrie Farrow. I am a school social work program specialist with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools.
And I am Jennifer Murphy. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Social Work at the University of Texas at Arlington.
So I would say the nominations committee is a small but mighty committee. We are a mix of university representation and practitioners. And so we are the committee that has been tasked with just building up a robust leadership pipeline in efforts to ensure that we are identifying those school social workers who are leaders and can further advance the boards, the work of the board, and the mission of SSWAA.
Okay, that was succinctly said. Very nice. So what kind of activities have you been involved in, and what has it taken? Because you came in like later in the year and then had to pull together the nominations process for the fall elections in 2025. What kinds of things did you do to improve the process that we had in place?
So I would say this has been an interesting time because I know prior to the elections process, there was some work going on behind the scenes. So we weren't exactly sure of what our timeline would look like. So we had a very short time frame to make these changes and actually implement them. So some of the work that we did as the committee was to increase the rigor of the nominations process. We were able to help clarify expectations of board roles and just making the process to nominations and I guess developing that slate a little bit more transparent.
Yeah, I think some of the big tasks that we had were walking through the recruitment process and getting folks interested in nominating themselves or others for leadership positions. Rebecca helped us with what were they called?
Candidate training?
The candidate trainings that happened to make sure folks knew the eligibility requirements, they knew the expectations, and making sure they had the capacity to take on a leadership position and were able to commit the time and energy needed. And then Kembrie and I also, and our team, did a lot of work to meet the candidate sessions where we were able to facilitate conversations to learn more about all the folks who were up for election and hopefully allow membership to know more about them before voting.
Yeah, and that is actually something very new. I don't think we've ever done that before, and I heard lots of great reviews about being able to hear the candidates, but then some candidates said they were so impressed with other candidates. Okay. So it was it benefited a lot of people in different ways. Was there anything that you learned from that process that you would definitely keep going in the future?
Absolutely. So I think that So one thing that we did differently was doing those interviews with the candidates. And I think that was a great way for us as the committee to not just read what's on paper based on what has been submitted, but actually be able to engage in a dialogue with the candidates. get a better understanding of their strengths and how candidate strengths line up with board needs in order to make sure that we are presenting a strong slate of candidates for nominations.
I forgot about those interviews.
Yes.
And I think that was such a good piece too, because we had some folks who were interested in multiple positions. And so we were really able to talk to them during that interview, see their strengths, and then suggest which way they might want to go, which was also helpful for when we had positions that didn't have as much interest to kind of take someone who we knew had a lot of strengths in that specific area and move them that way if they wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we originally were talking about the Meet the Candidate webinars, but what you're talking about is pre-work that you did. So when someone nominated themselves, they filled out the form, and then you interviewed them, your committee interviewed them, and we've never done that before either. So that's fantastic, and I love that you can match. You know, someone might nominate themselves for one position, but figure out, oh, you're a better fit for this position, because you can see the whole slate from the higher view, and so that positions SWAA and the candidate in a good place. So one of the other things I appreciated, this committee has to follow our bylaws and policy. And therefore, it took multiple reviews from them to make sure they were following our bylaws and policy, and they identified an issue in our policy and our bylaws, actually. It was in the bylaws that we're going to have to address. But, you know, that's just the benefit of having a committee and having others look at it. And so I really appreciated it. It caused a runoff this past year. But you know what? We weren't following policy in the or bylaws in the way we should. And so I thought that was a great thing. So I appreciate it very much. Okay, so what kinds of things so we do want to diversify the pipeline, right, into leadership. What kinds of things do you think the nominations committee can be doing to contribute to that goal?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways. One of the big pieces happening at the conference right now is that in an hour or so, we're going to have a session where we talk a lot about the movement from member to leadership in SWAA and what that looks like, and have a panel with board members, because I think that makes it really accessible to folks who maybe had no idea that we had committees and task forces and different ways they can become involved, so it makes it more accessible to everyone here at least, right? I think that's one of the big pieces right now.
And so I would add something that we do want to do moving forward as the committee is reaching out to our regional leadership, making sure that they are promoting the opportunities for leadership within SWAA, utilizing our board members to communicate when opportunities are arising. So just increasing that network of how we communicate these opportunities so that those who you know, leadership is not just about the social worker who is the loudest. Not to say that, you know, being loud is a negative thing, but there is a place at the table for those who work in the background. So making sure that those social workers who are leaders in their own right, but not out in the forefront, are aware of leadership opportunities within SWAA and how to access.
Is there one tip you would give someone who's thinking about running for the board in the future?
Do it. And so, I mean, just go for it. You might be thinking, you know, I'm not ready or I'm not qualified, but you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know everything to step into a leadership role.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me shift. Well, is there anything you want to accomplish over this next year in your work on the nominations committee?
So I can't recall the exact percentage, but we were able to increase the percentage of SWAA members who participated in voting. So it was a small percentage, and so my goal would be to increase the percentage of members who are more actively engaged in choosing who is on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also on the front end, right? I think this year the nominations committee came in later in the process.
Right.
So now that we have a committee and a really strong team established, really looking into how can we recruit and get folks interested in leadership early on, so we have more people on the docket.
Yep. Okay, excellent. And then how about your personal experiences? How long have you been a member? How did you get on this committee? And, any tips for someone thinking about joining a committee?
So I was a previous member of SSWAA. I discontinued my membership, and then last year got re-engaged with SSWAA. So I have been, and at the same time, at last year's conference, I connected with the person who was the chair of the nominations committee at that time. And just throughout the year, got more engaged with the committee. She had to move into another role and saw something in me that I did not see in myself, and suggested that I become the chair of the committee at that time. And so with board guidance and approval, here I am, but I am thankful for the opportunity.
So one of the things you did was at the conference there's a table, SSWAA sets up a table with the information about committee, so that is definitely one way.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've been a member. I think this is my second year being a member. Now that I'm in an academic role and no longer a practicing school social worker, becoming a member was really important to me to have connection and roots still grounded in practice and be surrounded by wonderful folks who are still in the field, right? And I think that was a big piece for me. I stepped into the co-chair when Emily stepped into a SSWAA staff position because I was already co-chair for another task force, and I've been really grateful for this opportunity, and I've learned so much for Kembrie and your organization and rubrics, and we've had so much fun.
I love that. Well, thank you all for your service. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.